Hello, everyone. Welcome to Self-Love Self-Care System Conversations with Experts. Today we have Adam Sanders. Adam is a drums, guitar, and bass teacher. He also does music theory and production. Adam received his Guildhall Grade 8 at age 18. Then he moved on to his RSL certificate in music production. He received a first-class BA honours degree in music and production. He also has a postgraduate certificate of education. He's been teaching drums and bass and guitar for 15 years and performing for even longer. His experience covers an enormous range of genres from both theoretical and practical applications. Adam's energetic and naturally personable and patient teaching style, alongside his studies in teaching special educational needs and disabilities, add to his teaching style. So hello, Adam. Thank you for joining the show.
Hello, it is my pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Adam. So Adam, I have some questions for you, and they're always about me being nosy, as most people know when they ever watch my interviews. So Adam, tell me something about yourself and what stirred your passion for music.
Wow. Okay, so when I was very, very young, my parents had like a caravan in Norfolk on like a caravan site that we used to go there all the time. And at that caravan site, there was a club. And at that club, like back in those days, they had loads and loads of live bands. So ever since I was like in a pram, I was hearing live music. And then I got more and more cognitive about that. And then I became more and more interested in that. And I was around it so much that I guess it sort of soaked in. And my parents listened to music a lot. Like neither of them are performers, but neither of them play anything. But they both listen to music a lot. So I was always around music. So I guess it was kind of inevitable. Consider me brainwashed.
Yes, a little bit from holiday brainwashing. So
Yeah.
13 is very young, right, to know where you're going. Okay. Do you think you were aware at this age that you were going to go into music production, or was it something that just kind of organically flowed as you got older?
So I think it's definitely like an organic process. I think anyone who ever starts being involved in music in any way, usually it's via performance. So you start playing an instrument and then you think, wow, I want to be like the people on stage playing the stuff, or like people in your favorite bands or whatever. But then when you get exposed to more and more of the music industry, you start to see how many different job roles are within the sector. So from that point, you obviously start dipping a toe in different things and getting interested in different things. And it is a really fluid process, to be fair. And the thing about music is really to get anywhere in music, you've got to have some sort of degree of flexibility, and you've just got to turn your hand to lots and lots of stuff to be able to call it a career.
I see. So what was your early inspiration musically? What were your early inspirations that brought you to this point today?
So to be fair, like most of my earliest musical inspirations would have been guitar stuff, like loads of old rock. I remember my parents when we used to go to Cornwall, because we used to have a motorhome as well. We used to go to Cornwall, and on the drive to Cornwall, there was a CD which was like, it was Smashy and Nicey, which was basically like totally like dad rock. It was like a compilation CD, like 2468 Motorway, and like Black Betty as well, and loads of songs like that, which was just so cheesy now. But that I was like, whoa, what's this? This is a bit different. And then I don't know, it just that sort of hit me at the time.
That's really cool. I love that. I love the fact that a lot of your music stuff came from when you were on these holidays. It was all these holidays and all this stuff that you were listening to.
Yeah,
that's really interesting. So at school, did you study, like, did you do music at school? Did you study any instruments at school?
So I first started playing drums. I did like a year self-taught, and that was when I was about 8. My school that I was in then, like junior school, they didn't do any drum lessons or anything like that. But I was already doing classical guitar lessons at the school, because again, back in those days, really, if you wanted to play guitar, nowadays at junior school, they like give you an electric guitar, and I'm like, whoa, here's an innovative way of doing the thing you want to do. Whereas back then it was just sort of like, well, you're going to play Spanish guitar. That's what you can do. If you want to play guitar, it's going to be Spanish. So I started doing like classical guitar at school, but there was no drums or anything like that. So I did like a year self-taught. I started drum lessons properly like as soon as I hit high school, as soon as I hit senior school. And then like from that point, I just sort of fast tracked it. So that's when I busted through all my grades and stuff like that.
Wow, clearly you went to better schools than me. There was only a recorder. If you wanted to play anything, it was the recorder, or it's percussion triangles and stuff like that.
I don't know. I mean, my school, like my high school, I will happily go on record and say it absolutely sucked. They did not care about music whatsoever. Like it would be at a point where I was doing my drum lessons and teachers would come down into like the practice room and be like, "You've got to stop." And my teacher would be like, "But we're in like a lesson, it's like paid for." And they were like, "No, you're disrupting the learning." And they didn't see music as like a viable education. It really sucked.
That's actually a really interesting point, because I remember being at school myself. I remember a lot of the lads wanting to do music stuff. And the only way they could ever really do it wasn't actually at school. It was normally in garages, each other's garages, with like, creating their own little garage bands. So yeah, so I can actually understand that. Not that I ever played any instruments when I was younger, because I was doing girl stuff, but well, it just always seemed the boys, when I was younger anyway, it always seemed the boys were playing instruments and drums and guitars, and they were so cool, and the girls were just painting each other's nails, really, basically. I can't believe I said that. I said that now. It's live, it's recorded, and there you go. It's not live, thank God, actually. So okay, so what did you have a definitive plan about music production, or was there something specific that drew you towards music production specifically?
So I think I got into music production because I wanted to record my bands well. And that's why I started producing. So obviously I was performing in a band, and then I'd be writing material for that band and we'd be playing those songs. And then we'd maybe go to studios, but it's really hard to go to a studio that's exactly right for your band, if that makes sense. Different studios have different specialisms, be it a genre, or maybe the engineer will be particularly good at one instrument or particularly good at producing like voice, for instance.
Yeah.
But it's very hard to find an engineer who's going to care as much about your material as you do.
Yeah.
So that was kind of what led me to turning my hand to production and trying all of that side of things as well, because I had a compositional understanding of how the songs were created. I had a performance understanding of how the different instruments worked and the acoustic properties of the instrument. So then it was just a case of learning that technology side to work in counterpart with it.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because I looked at your like CV, and I was like, oh, music production. I wonder what took you there. I was like, what took you there? You seem to me, in my mind and looking at this, you're very focused from a very young age to be able to get yourself from where you were, and you had this very definitive plan from what I can see. Because most people I know kind of just go through life not quite sure where they're going. So I think that's quite interesting, quite intriguing. Do you think that music maybe gave you that firm base of being able to be strong enough to make those choices like that?
I don't know. I'd go as far to say maybe like music facilitated that, but I think like from even from my memories, like as a young age, I was always starting a project and I was always trying to do something which had some sort of journey to it, some sort of roadmap to it. So when I started playing music, I guess that was that part of my personality. It facilitated that, and then it kind of just got into this cyclical way of just pushing each other.
Interesting. I'm getting the idea that you're kind of person that's always scheming and planning.
Always, always.
Always scheming and planning. I know those kind of people. They've always got something on the back burner. They've always got something on the go. I get it.
Life will get boring otherwise. You've got to keep moving forward. Like a shark. If you stop swimming, you die. Shark, just to fill in the blank there. Sharks, they have to keep moving. They have to keep moving, or they literally die. You would never see a shark still.
That's so funny. Oh my goodness, that's too good. But yeah, it's true. But I'm a bit like that as well. I'm a little bit of I'm constantly doing stuff. I remember once someone saying to me, get yourself a notebook. I was like, why? And they're saying, because all these ideas when you're scheming and you're planning, just write it all down. So yeah, no, there is something to that. I think it is a good thing. I really do. So, okay. Did this then lead you to becoming a tutor? Was this all the aim? So when you did the music production, and then you had this impetus to go, did this bring you to being a teacher, or was it different? Was there a different way that you ended up in teaching?
So it was different. but kind of the same. So I actually started teaching when I started music production as well. So the teaching all came from the fact that I was in college. So I was at a specific music college doing the level 3 diploma that you mentioned earlier. And we had like our specialist instrument, we had a tutor in that specialist instrument as part of the course.
Yeah.
So mine was drums at that time. So my drum tutor, about halfway through the first year, he moved to Norfolk, and he told us that he was moving to Norfolk. And he said, "Hey, Adam, I've got a couple of students who are relatively near beginner level. How would you feel about trying to teach them?" And I was like, "Okay, I'll give it a go." And that was literally it, because these specific students were like home visits that he did in Wickford, which is where I live. So he said to me, let's see how it goes. Like, I'll put you in touch with them, and they're nice people, and see how you get on. That's when I started teaching. So that was when I was like 16.
That's amazing. Do you know, it's really interesting because I was reading a book. It's like a storybook, but there was a part in it, and it was all about this young woman, and she goes from being where she is to where she's going in her life, and it's how she gets guided. And you were guided into that. Someone gave you that, literally gave it to you. And I wish that could be my life. That's amazing. No, that's just so cool, because it's life was working for you. You were like attracting in such a good way. I figure it's probably because you were where you were supposed to be. You were maybe doing what you were supposed to be doing. You were exactly where you were meant to be. So you weren't hitting walls because you had an open space in the fact that your creativity was kind of opening those doors for you. So that's amazing. I love that. Oh my goodness. I just really do. I love that kind of opportunity that just presented itself when you were 16 years old.
Yeah. So that's when I started teaching. And obviously that's something that has just been consistent from that point onwards.
Oh, who has a Saturday job sort of thing as a teacher?
Well, this is the thing, because like I always remember, because I was 16 and I had like a few students, and I was bubbling along with those. And so back in the day, before Greggs took it over, you had baker's oven. So in Wickford, there was a baker's oven, and I actually got a Saturday job in baker's oven. And I did one shift, and I was like, looked at how much I was potentially going to be paid for that shift versus what I actually did. And I was like, no, I'm just going to get some more students.
Absolutely. You know what I love about it? I love the direction, and I love the focus, and I love the fact that you had that kind of within you, that this is what I'm going to do, this is where I'm going to go. And I love that money drove you too. Who wouldn't do that? Who wouldn't go, well, my Saturday jobs did pay fairly badly, didn't they? So...
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I guess like a certain drive for money would have always been part of it, because when I was growing up, basically my parents didn't have much money. So we didn't really have much money. My dad was self-employed at the time as well, and we had kind of a bit of a rough time in that way. So I think that's another thing that probably contributed to my focus, because I was like, I'm focused, I can see an end goal, I'm going to work towards that, and I make that happen.
It's really interesting what you just said, because for some people it works the other way. So they have this struggle, and then they seem to struggle later as well. Or you get people that they've had everything, so then they struggle the other way around. So I do think that can kind of present itself. So my next question would be, so what made you pick the instruments you did pick? What made you go down the road of drums, guitar, bass? What made you go there? Why not say piano, or why not, I know, clarinet or whatever?
So, I mean, that distinction is pretty easy, to be honest, because obviously rock music is cool, particularly when you're young. It's really cool, and those people are really cool, and nobody wants to be someone with a clarinet. But nowadays, I'd be someone with a clarinet. That'd be wicked. In my mature, aged self, I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to learn clarinet. That'd be sick. But back then, jumping into guitar and stuff like that was what the music I liked at the time, probably based on the music that I was around at the time, because both of my parents were into more that kind of stuff. Saying that though, my mum, she did also really like the 80s electronic stuff as well, and that's probably what led to me really disliking that kind of music now as well. That's deeply embedded. That's like that hatred is in my veins. So yeah, that's guitar. And then drums, when I moved on to drums, I'm a physical person. I like moving. I like anything that I can do with my body in that way, and I like using my body. So the drums is one of the most physical instruments, and that's why I kind of enjoy that, because while you're doing it, you're very much part of that process. Your whole body's involved with the process. When you play a gig, you're like really getting a sweat on. You're getting physically tired doing it, and I love that feeling.
So what I'm getting here is that you chose your instruments to be cool.
And it worked.
I love that. It's just so cool. You're so funny. Oh my goodness, that's brilliant. Okay, now you've made me laugh so much. How much editing am I going to have to do? Honestly. So, what do you believe that instruments can help with sort of emotional, and do they have like any emotional benefits? Do you believe that learning to play an instrument can bring in any kind of help within that mental, physical focus and that emotional benefit at all?
Absolutely, 100%. So I think I would actually say I attribute my whole mindset towards life that I have now was actually down to understanding how to learn. And I don't think that necessarily even is limited to instruments. I think one of the most powerful things you can do as a person is understand how to learn. Because really, if you can do that about yourself, because we're all individuals and we all have really, really different traits and responses and characteristics and triggers. And I think if you actually understand what those are and can use those to your advantage, then moving through life can be so much easier. You can spot your feelings towards things before they happen because you understand how you interpret things and how you react to things. And all of that, for me anyway, what I found comes down to that learning process. So starting to learn those things really early and learn the pathways of how to develop a drum groove, adding those parts by parts and looking at different ways of doing it. I think that's almost like a blueprint that I started to add to my own mindset to different things in life, which were very unrelated to music. And of course, you've got the emotional thing as well. It's a great thing to do, to be able to pour yourself into musical performance. That's why I play so many different genres as well, to be honest, because I'm not always super out there and energetic, and sometimes I'm more withheld, and depending on what you're playing, you can articulate those emotions through music every single time, and then you can almost support yourself, or you can take yourself out of certain moods as well.
Really interesting. I find that so interesting because I think that it brings you to a space of knowing you, even if you don't realize it at the time. It kind of gets you to find out things about yourself. And I'm one of these people who think just be who you are, just be who you are. But when you play an instrument, I think it can bring you to a space of where you're kind of a little bit resistant to being who you are. So I do think that, yeah, I'm with that as well, really. So, okay. So I see you've got special educational needs experience. What drove you towards training in that? Was it something specific or was it just something extra to have?
So to be honest, I always want to understand more about teaching. I always want to understand more about the way that learners interpret things. So obviously, I mean, you can go with like the standardized blueprint that you'd apply to most learners, and then everyone's still individual. And then one step further is to say, okay, how about if someone's brain is wired slightly differently? How are you going to work with that? How are you going to understand that? And to be honest, it's probably mainly that drove me towards it. I love the idea of understanding people more. That's absolutely brilliant. And I think that's one of the real benefits of teaching as well, is you do grow to understand how people react, how people interpret things, how people just generally work and operate. And also, since having learners with SEND, I think music just again has a way of being used as a therapy, even if it's not specifically for that. I think lots of students with SEND that I have taught have got on really well with musical instruments and started to open up more and started to come out of themselves more. And I mean, that's incredibly rewarding. That's just amazing.
Yeah, it's because I trained primary school teacher. When I was in my last thing that I did, last teaching job, I actually was with the special educational needs, like the speech and language unit. So I do get that actually. And that was my most favorite thing to do, but you'd have to train more to do that. And I remember thinking the reward you got was so much more beneficial because the I suppose the progress always seems a little bit different, and the way they learn seems a bit different. And yeah, so I can actually understand that. I can recognize what you mean within that. So yeah, yes. So there you go, Adam. That's your interview. Thank you so much. Can you tell everyone where they can find you and how they can access your teaching and things that you offer?
Absolutely. So I am the main guy at Card Trick Music, which is a recording rehearsal and tuition studio based in Chelmsford in Essex. So if you do Facebook / Card Trick Music, or Card Trick Music on Instagram, or Card Trick Music on the general internet, then you will find our website. And my name is Adam Sanders, and you will find me associated with that name because I built it using my very hands. So I am built into Card Trick Music as well, and then you can look at pictures of my face, which is awesome.
Thank you everyone for watching this very fun video and interview with Adam. It's been an absolute pleasure. You know where you can find me. I'm at www.selfloveselfcaresystem.com, and I've also got my Facebook page, which is the coaching page and the angel page, and I will speak to you soon. Take care of yourselves. Have a lovely rest of the week wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Namaste everyone. Bye bye from me, and bye bye from
Adam.
Take care. Bye. Lots of love. Bye.